everybody. Today we're going to be learning about solving equations using addition and subtraction, multiplication, and division. For any STEM course that you will need throughout your career, you will need to know how to solve equations. So let's look at it and learn about it, and let's practice it. So for this first one, we're going to look at solving equations with addition and subtraction. Most of the time, this is the first step that you should do in order to solve any equation. So in this case here, we have the equation x plus y plus 10 is equal to 15. Now the question can ask for many things. If you want to solve for the equation of a line, usually solve for y, or it could ask to solve for x. But in this case, let's solve for y. And what this actually means is to get it in the form of y is equal to something. So we need to get y on one side by itself and everything else on the other side. Now, the interesting thing about equations and math is that there's a lot of different rules and a lot of different cool tricks that you can do in order for this to happen. So let's say you start with the equation x plus y plus 10 is equal to 15. So let's look at a really simple equation. Just the idea that 2 is equal to 2. We know this. 2 is equal to 2, so this statement is true. Now, let's do a trick where we can add to something to both sides of it. Let's add 1 to both sides. Since we did it to both sides, let's look at the new number, which is going to be 3. 3 is equal to 3. This statement is still true. Now let's look at the idea of subtraction. Now let's look at a new equation where 1 is equal to 1. And now let's subtract something on both sides, but the same number, of course, where we subtract 2 from one side and we subtract 2 from another side. Now, what this equation actually reads is minus 1 is equal to minus 1, or negative 1. And this statement is still true. The underlying rule for all of equation solving with any single trick, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, any sort of transformation to your equation, the underlying rule is what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And so in this case, since we have the equation x plus y plus 10 is equal to 15, let's get rid of the 10 on the left side. And the way that we can do that is by subtracting 10 on both sides. If we subtract 10 on both sides, I'm going to move over to the left here, but we're going to leave with x plus y plus 10 minus 10 is equal to 15 minus 10, right? And now we can combine like terms. And what I mean by that is that numbers can combine with numbers, any terms of x can combine with x, and any terms of y can combine with each other as well. Here we have two numbers that are subtracted from each other, and just the idea that 10 minus 10 is equal to 0, you can completely cross it out on the left. And so on the left side, you're left with x plus y is equal to 15 minus 10. And just to make this actually true, 15 minus 10 is just going to be 5. So now we're left with x plus y is equal to 5. Now, in order to get it into the form of y equals, what we can actually do now is subtract x on both sides. And by on both sides, I'm going to mean onto the 5 side, because 15 minus 10 is just the same thing as 5 on the right side. And so when we write it out on the next line, we're going to have x minus x plus y is equal to 5 minus x. And so in this equation, x minus x is going to cancel each other out. We're going to be left with the final equation, y is equal to 5 minus x. So this equation that we found at the very end is the same equation for a line at the very top. But we just make it look much nicer and in the form that we actually care about. And we can do the same thing for addition. If we had minus 10 in this equation, we would actually have to add 10 to both sides instead of subtract for at the beginning. But the rule is the same no matter what. Let's move on to the idea of multiplication and division. This is usually the second step after we added and subtracted things to look nicer on both sides. We have 2xy is equal to 10 divided by x. Let's do the same idea again where we're going to solve this equation for y. We want to get y to one side by itself and everything else to another side. Now, it's not so easy of subtracting 2x to get rid of the 2xy, but it's the idea of fractions where you have 5 divided by 5. If you have something on the top and the bottom, they can end up canceling out. And you're just left with 1, which you don't even write usually, so that's why it just cancels out. And it's the same thing with my previous videos with the idea of units. If you have 1 unit on top and 1 unit on the bottom, they just cancel out. It's the same for all numbers, all units, everything. So let's divide what we don't want on one side, but we have to divide it on both sides as well. What we do to one side, we have to do to another. So if we want to solve for y, let's divide both sides by 2x. Since there's something in the denominator on the right side, it's the same thing as saying multiplying by the fraction 1 over 2x. It's the same exact thing. And so for the next line, we actually have 2xy divided by 2x is equal to 10 divided by x times 2x, or 2x squared. And like I talked about before, anything on the top and the bottom that are the same can cancel each other out. So 2x on the top and the bottom of the left fraction will cancel out, and we'll be left with y is equal to something. Now, if you're in a class and you need to solve it to the most simplest form, 10 divided by 2 gives you a proper whole number, just in terms of fractions. So 10 divided by 2 is going to be 5 divided by x squared. So the initial equation just really means y is equal to 5 minus x squared. They have the same idea, the same equation, but just in a different representation. Let's move on to some practice where we're going to combine addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, which is the majority of what you'll do for equation solving. In a later video, we'll talk about advanced equation solving. So for this equation here, let's say we have 2x plus 10 is equal to 15 minus x. And we want to solve this equation for x, or get it into the form of x is equal to something. So we want to get the idea of x to just one side and just one of them. So, like I mentioned before, let's worry about addition and subtraction first. And let's bring all the x terms to one side and all the constant terms or number terms to the other. So let's do this step by step. So let's actually add 2x to both sides. It doesn't matter the order that you do it. You could have subtracted 2x on the left side first and then subtracted on both sides. But here, let's add 2x. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I usually like whole positive numbers, and this makes it easier for me as well. So our new equation, and I'm going to move it over to the left here, is going to be 2x plus 10 is going to be equal to 15 plus 2x minus 2x. Now our 2x and minus 2x will cancel out, which is what we wanted, and our 2x plus 2x will combine to become 4x plus 10 is equal to 15. Now let's work on subtraction on both sides again in order to cancel out this 10 term. So if we subtract 10 to both sides, we're going to get 4x. I'm not going to write it in, but it's going to be 10 minus 10, which cancels out the 0. It's equal to 15 minus 10, or just equal to 5. Now at this point, we have 4x is equal to 15 minus 10, which is equal to 5. And I'm going to move it down just right here. Now we need it in terms of x equals, not 4x equals. So this is where we actually have to add the division step. We're going to divide both sides by 4. Because 4x divided by 4 is the same thing as saying x is equal to 5 fourths. X is equal to 5 divided by 4. So after solving this equation, x is equal to 5 divided by 4. And always, it's very good to check yourself, especially with equation solving. Let's plug 5/4 in for x above. And this is always a good thing to check as well. 2 times 5 divided by 4 plus 10 is equal to 15 minus 2, 5 divided by 4. So let's combine like terms, or at least multiply the two times the fractions on both sides, where we're going to get 10 divided by 4 plus 10 is equal to 15 minus 10 divided by 4. Now, let's see if these things are the same on both sides. So in order to combine fractions with whole numbers, we need to have a common denominator. And we'll talk about this in a later video, but if we want to have a denominator of 4, what we need to do is to get a denominator by 4, and the thing that makes it equals is going to be 40. Because 40 divided by 4 is just 10. So that's the same thing as saying 10. And we're going to do the same thing for 15. So if we take 15 times 4, you'll get 60. 60 fourths minus 10 fourths. Now, since they have common denominators, we're going to add them together on the left side, where we're going to get 50 divided by 4 is equal to 60 minus 10, which is just 50 divided by 4. So this x term was actually correct. It's true for the equation above. If you plug back your x into this equation above and you don't get the same thing on both sides, or if you don't get a true statement, then you actually did something wrong when you solve for x. So always check yourself, especially on exams. Now let's look at this last bit of practice here. Let's solve this following equation for x, where we have 8x plus 2x divided by 3y is equal to 8x plus y. So we have a lot of x and y terms here. But the one thing I immediately notice is that we have an 8x term added to both sides. So let's subtract by 8x on both sides, because I usually start with addition and subtraction first. And if we subtract 8x on both sides, they both cancel out on both sides. So we get 2x minus 3y is equal to y. Now again, we want to get x by itself on both sides. So what we can do is we can multiply both sides by 3y. Because whatever we can do, any transformation we make, we must do to both sides in order for make this statement true, no matter what. So if we divide by 3y and multiply by 3y, they cancel out, and you're left with 2x is equal to 3y squared, because of the y times 3y. And now let's solve for x totally by dividing by 2. And so we get a final answer of x is equal to 3y squared divided by 2. For this last bit of practice here, we actually have this equation PV is equal to nRT. This is just the ideal gas law in general chemistry. And if we can learn how to solve for specific variables of this equation, you'll learn a lot of information from this as well. So let's solve the following equation for T. In order to get T by itself, we need to actually apply the rule of division. We're going to divide by NR on both sides. And since we're dividing by NR and multiplying by NR on the right side, they just cancel out. And very quickly, you just get T is equal to PV divided by NR. It's as simple as that, but learning these specific skills can help you a lot when you're on an exam and you're only given one equation for one variable, and you can learn how to rearrange for another variable. I hope you all learned something today. Please like and subscribe, and check out my channel for more chemistry and math related practice and content.